Let's start with our first news. Arman and Ryan Garcia have agreed to settle their dispute inside the boxing ring after tensions escalated between the two following a controversial $40,000 bet situation. The conflict began when Ryan Garcia reportedly refused to pay the bet he lost to Arman, which immediately sparked backlash and heated exchanges between both sides. In response, Arman initially challenged Ryan to an MMA sparring session, but Ryan quickly shut that idea down. However, things took a surprising turn when Russian journalist Adam Zubay shared a clip showing Arman FaceTiming Ryan Garcia, where both fighters began discussing terms for a potential matchup. During the conversation, Ryan apologized for the misunderstanding regarding the bet and explained that he felt frustrated because he wasn't fully informed about Arman's professional fighting background. He admitted that the situation escalated unfairly and said that if it were a real fight scenario, he would have no issue paying what was owed. Ryan also clarified that the original interaction was not meant to disrespect Arman, but rather came from confusion and miscommunication. As the discussion continued, Arman pushed for a proper fight instead of any informal arrangement, saying he no longer cared about the money and just wanted to compete. Ryan responded that he was open to it, stating that he was ready for a real challenge and didn't want any limitations in terms of engagement. He emphasized that if they were going to fight, it should be fully committed. The two then began negotiating the rules of the matchup. Ryan initially suggested kicks, but Arman refused that idea. Eventually, they settled on an 8-round boxing fight with elbows allowed. Ryan insisted that he wanted a more realistic and intense format, while Arman agreed, as long as it stayed within striking rules. They also discussed equipment, agreeing on 14-ounce gloves. However, Ryan raised concerns about elbow protection, and the conversation shifted toward whether protective gear would be used. In the end, it was agreed that Ryan would wear gloves only, while elbows would remain part of the fight rules without additional padding. The FaceTime call ended on a respectful note, with both fighters confirming the agreement. They shook on the terms virtually, confirmed the 8-round structure, and ended the conversation by acknowledging the matchup was officially set in principle. Move on to another news at the start. Khamzat confronts Arman over his attitude and lack of professionalism in a heated moment that was caught on camera inside the gym. According to reports, Khamzat didn't hold back as he called out Arman for what he sees as inconsistent discipline, constant traveling, and spending too much time making skit videos instead of focusing fully on training. The situation is being described as a rare behind-the-scenes clash between Khamzat's strict, high-intensity mentality and Arman's more relaxed approach in recent months. Khamzat, who lives and breathes the sport, made it clear that he expects far more from someone who wants to reach the very top of the lightweight division. What makes the moment even more interesting is Khamzat's own history. In his early UFC years, he was criticized for discipline issues, including missing weight, arriving late, and being inconsistent with training habits. But now, he appears to be holding others to an extremely high standard, demanding full commitment from teammates and fighters around him. In the gym clip, Khamzat is seen questioning the room directly, asking who shows up the most and who puts in real work. Laughter can be heard in the background as the coach responds, mentioning a 20-minute record, pointing toward Arman. Khamzat acknowledges it, but immediately shuts it down by saying that even if someone shows up briefly, it doesn't mean anything without consistency. He then points out a young fighter, saying that a 17-year-old is already a world champion, and even a 2-time world champion, emphasizing how fast others are progressing. Khamzat questions Arman directly, saying that medals and past achievements don't matter if the ultimate goal is not reached. He continues by stating that winning a UFC belt is the real goal, then moving up in weight classes and repeating the process. He even goes further, suggesting that after dominating MMA, a fighter should consider moving into boxing to continue proving greatness. But he stresses that none of this is possible without showing up to the gym more consistently and training with full seriousness. Khamzat also criticizes what he calls a hamburger champion, implying that talent without discipline means nothing at the elite level. He insists that he himself trains more than anyone else in the room and expects the same level of effort from others. The situation has sparked reactions online, especially as Strickland was seen calling out Khamzat's intensity, suggesting he was exposing a different side of his coaching mentality in real time. Move on to another news at the start. Sean Strickland has gone off on Khamzat after a series of alleged threats that escalated tensions between the two fighters. A few days ago, reports emerged suggesting that Khamzat may have sent a warning to Sean Strickland, implying that if they ever met outside the octagon, things could turn deadly. However, it was also made clear that inside the UFC, such situations would never be allowed to escalate that far. Those comments did not sit well with Strickland at all. In response, he decided to escalate the situation himself by showing up near where Khamzat is currently training. Throughout the day, Strickland repeatedly posted his location on his Instagram story, effectively sending an open invitation for Khamzat to show up and confront him in person. Despite the provocation, Khamzat did not appear. After waiting and receiving no response, Strickland took things further by posting a video on social media, directly taunting Khamzat and accusing him of avoiding real-life confrontation. In the video, Strickland said that he normally avoids sharing his location or whereabouts, but made an exception after seeing what he described as disrespectful comments circulating online. He claimed that Khamzat's message about fighting or killing in the streets was unnecessary and escalated things beyond sport. Strickland then revealed that he was only about 10 minutes away from Khamzat's gym at the time, insisting that he had been dropping location tags all day. He added that people training with Khamzat, including his teammates, would have seen his Instagram stories and known exactly where he was. He continued by saying he genuinely expected Khamzat to show up, but ultimately wasn't surprised when nothing happened. Strickland referenced past situations where fighters talk aggressively but fail to act when given the chance, suggesting that this was another example of that pattern. He made it clear that he sees himself as one of the last people anyone should threaten, emphasizing that he does not back down from confrontation. However, he also acknowledged that if someone chooses not to show up, then that is their decision. The situation has raised concerns within the MMA community, with many believing that both fighters are extremely volatile personalities. It is now expected that strict security measures will be in place if they ever appear at the same UFC event, as tensions between them continue to rise. Move on to another news at the start. Dana White has reacted to growing discussions around a possible interim title and vacating situation in the division, making it clear that no official decision has been made yet. According to Dana White, the UFC has not even begun serious talks about introducing an interim belt, despite public speculation and comments from fighters like Paulo Costa. He emphasized that the promotion is currently focused on evaluating the situation and waiting to see how recovery timelines develop before making any final decisions. Dana explained that the priority is to assess how fast the champion recovers and returns to competition. Once that is clear, the UFC will decide the next step regarding the title picture. At this stage, however, he stressed that nothing has been officially discussed internally regarding an interim championship. He also addressed the comments made by Paulo Costa, who had been publicly suggesting that an interim belt could be introduced. Dana White dismissed the urgency of those claims, indicating that the UFC has not yet had any formal conversation about such a move. In his statement, Dana said that the organization will get him in there and see how quickly the recovery progresses, reinforcing that the UFC typically adjusts plans based on real-time developments rather than early speculation. He added that the UFC always figures things out as situations evolve, suggesting that the promotion prefers flexibility rather than rushing into title decisions. According to him, the current situation is still developing, and there is no need to jump into creating an interim championship at this point. When asked directly about Paulo Costa's comments regarding an interim belt, Dana White responded clearly that those discussions have not taken place. He confirmed that there has been no internal agreement or official conversation about introducing another title fight. He further mentioned that other fighters, including those preparing or recovering, are still being organized within the division, and the UFC is working through scheduling and logistical details before making any championship-related announcements. Overall, Dana White's reaction made it clear that while speculation continues outside the organization, the UFC leadership is staying patient and waiting for clearer medical and scheduling updates before deciding whether any interim title or belt changes will be necessary in the division. Move on to another news at the start. Dana White has shut down the circulating rumors about an interim bantamweight title being on the line for the upcoming fight between O'Malley and Zahabi. The confusion began after O'Malley claimed that Peter Yan's injury had turned his scheduled fight against Zahabi at the White House card into an interim bantamweight title bout. However, Dana White quickly stepped in and completely dismissed that narrative, making it clear that this is not an interim title fight. He also emphasized that, even more importantly, the winner will not automatically become the #1 contender. According to Dana White, both fighters are simply being given a major opportunity on one of the biggest UFC cards of the year, but nothing beyond that has been decided. Dana stressed that the UFC will closely evaluate everything that happens inside the cage, including performance level, dominance, finishing ability, decision quality, and overall impact. He made it clear that future title implications will be based entirely on what happens on fight night, not pre-fight assumptions. The message from Dana White was direct. Just because a fight is high profile does not mean it comes with guaranteed rewards or shortcuts to a title shot. He reinforced that the bantamweight division remains competitive and nothing is handed out for free. For O'Malley, who previously lost the belt to Merab and then came up short in the rematch, this fight represents another chance to climb back toward the top. But Dana's comments make it clear that there is no automatic path waiting for him, even with a win. According to Dana White, the UFC is focused on execution, not narratives. Fighters must perform at the highest level, and only then will the promotion decide what comes next for their careers. He also highlighted the scale of the upcoming event, stating that it is expected to be one of the biggest productions in UFC history, with massive demand already for tickets and participation in the event lottery. When asked about financial estimates, Dana acknowledged that the production costs are in the range of around $60 million, though he added that the final number could be slightly lower. Overall, Dana White made it clear that speculation about interim titles is incorrect, and the focus remains entirely on performance inside the octagon before any championship decisions are made. Move on to another news at the start. Sean Strickland has reacted to the escalating situation involving Khamzat and alleged violent threats as tensions between the two continue to rise during fight camp buildup. While Khamzat has been training in Newport Beach, Strickland showed up in the same area and deliberately posted his exact location on Instagram multiple times. The move was seen as him openly provoking Khamzat and essentially daring him to show up and confront him in person. This comes after earlier reports of Khamzat making violent street fight comments, suggesting that outside the octagon, things could turn deadly. Strickland addressed those claims directly, calling him out for making threats but not acting on them when given the opportunity. According to Strickland, he was only minutes away from Khamzat's gym and expected some kind of response. He made it clear that he intentionally made his whereabouts public, tagging locations throughout the day, while also pointing out that people close to Khamzat would have been aware of where he was. Despite the escalation, Khamzat did not appear, which led Strickland to further question his willingness to back up his words outside of competition. In his comments, Strickland explained that he normally avoids sharing his location, but changed that after seeing what he described as disrespectful online statements. He emphasized that while MMA is a sport inside the cage with rules, outside of it, the situation is completely different and far more serious. Strickland stated that he takes street fight talk extremely seriously and warned that if anything were to happen outside the octagon, it would not end well for the other side. His tone made it clear that he does not view the situation lightly. He continued by saying he was physically close to Khamzat's gym, repeating that he was only about 10 minutes away and believed there was a real chance Khamzat might show up. However, he also acknowledged that nothing happened, referencing past fighters who talk aggressively but do not follow through. Strickland then added that he is one of the last people anyone should threaten, reinforcing his reputation for not backing down from confrontation. At the same time, he pointed out that if someone chooses not to show up, then that is ultimately their decision. The situation has added more intensity to an already heated buildup, with fans now watching closely to see whether the rivalry escalates further during fight week or remains limited to psychological warfare before they eventually step into the octagon. Move on to another news at the start. Dana White has addressed the situation surrounding Carlos Ulberg's injury and the future of the UFC light heavyweight division, confirming that no major decisions have been made yet regarding stripping the title or introducing an interim championship. When asked about what happens at 205 moving forward, Dana explained that the recovery timeline means it will likely be a long road before the champion is back in action. He emphasized that the UFC is not rushing into any structural changes in the division at this stage. Dana also shared an update on the injured champion's current situation, noting that he was at a power slap event recently and is expected to remain in Vegas following surgery. According to Dana, the fighter will begin his recovery process at the UFC Performance Institute, which is designed to support athletes through rehabilitation and training. He highlighted that one of the biggest issues in the past was fighters undergoing surgery and then returning home to environments where proper recovery support was limited or unavailable. In many cases, athletes would not receive consistent physical therapy or structured rehabilitation, which slowed down their return or affected long-term performance. Dana White explained that the UFC Performance Institute has significantly changed that process, stating that it has helped extend careers and improved recovery outcomes for many fighters. He made it clear that the injured champion will be placed in that system so the UFC can closely monitor his progress and recovery speed. The plan moving forward, according to Dana, is to evaluate how quickly the fighter responds to treatment and rehabilitation before making any further decisions about the division. He stressed that everything will be handled based on recovery progress, and the UFC will adjust accordingly when needed. When asked about interim title discussions, including comments from fighters like Paulo Costa, Dana White dismissed the idea that any official conversations have taken place. He confirmed that there has been no discussion about introducing an interim belt at this time. He reiterated that the organization is still in the early stages of managing the situation and that the focus is on getting the champion healthy first. Only after that will the UFC evaluate the next steps for the light heavyweight division. Overall, Dana made it clear that while speculation continues outside the organization, the UFC is taking a patient approach, prioritizing recovery, and waiting before making any championship-level decisions.